Okay, right. This is the last section. We're finally going to do it. Finally going to take on Ganondorf. And of course, it wouldn't be the final section of the game unless I had just an army of bats ready to take me on as my worst enemy in this playthrough. Come on. Yeah, take that. Finally, at the end of the game, I've gotten used to taking these guys down. If I ever tried to do this on the N64 now, I would be hopeless because I've spent too long trying to adjust to using a PS4 controller. But you'll be able to hear that Ganondorf's organ playing is coming through. You can see these guys look pretty different from Ganondorf. So yeah, different from the Lizalfos that we fought previously. I think this is the first time in the game that we fought them. Difference being that actually both of them, pretty sure both of them will attack you at the same time. It makes it a little bit more challenging. Cool. Okay. And I think this is going to be the usual sort of setup where you're going to have to defeat both of the Stalfos within a certain amount of time. Strikes me this is probably the part of the game where there's not actually much puzzle solving left. It's mostly battles. I want to try and tempt him to attack me quite quickly just by moving close, just because okay, cool. Alright, that wasn't too much of a challenge. And it wouldn't be a dungeon in the adult timeline if we didn't have the boss key. There's a couple more rooms, from what I remember. Oh wow, okay, yeah. One white and one black. That's interesting. was lucky. I had meant to jump jump backwards and do a backflip. How he missed me, I don't actually know. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, so if I didn't have that defensive boost that the Great Fairy had given me in the last segment, yeah, that presumably would have taken out 4 hearts from one hit. That's pretty devastating, actually. Even Breath of the Wild can be more forgiving than that. Come on. Bit was always a bit deceptive because you open the boss door and you think, oh, you know, I think that Ganondorf's going to be right behind that door, and he's not. Surprisingly enough, this game's still got a little bit left to show you. And there's, from what I remember, I think there's a fairly lengthy intro coming up. Aside from the really long ascension into Ganondorf's chambers. Alright. Well, the memories are flowing now. Alright, okay. So you'll start by destroying part of the arena. So I can't target him because of Navi's restrictions in this part of the scene. I do find it really interesting actually that again, because of the emulator, you couldn't see Ganondorf's eyes during that cutscene, which is extremely eerie. Yeah, it's not a great start. Kind of surprised me when, you know, he spends that long kind of building up to turn around at you. And you know, I remember what Ganondorf looks like in that scene, and then suddenly he's completely black. Yeah, that's more eerie than I can actually put into words. Okay, that was lucky. Okay, back to this section. I'm going to try and get good distance from him, I would say. just to kind of give you as much room to rebound with attacks as you can. And again, this is going to be very reminiscent of the Phantom Ganon in the Forest Temple. That wasn't ideal because this is the problem with jump slashing, is that you often find that you'll jump over him, and it doesn't make it easy to get your sword slashes in. Okay, the rhythm of this changes from lightning bolt to lightning bolt. From what I remember, just to kind of put you off balance a little bit. Ooh. There we go. It's actually quicker than I anticipated. I reckon one more round, probably. Maybe two, but I think one more should do it. Okay. I think he does the same attack again. Yeah, that energy gather. You don't need a full sword slash in order to do this, but I think it is the easiest way. Okay, so we have 3 minutes to escape the collapsing tower. One tip I always remember from you know, back in the days when I was looking on game facts and stuff like that. Say game FAQs, however you want to say it. just to get through these sections that I didn't know how to do, or you know, when I was trying to do it a bit faster after I'd already completed the game. One tip I heard was to use the hover boots to get through these sections where you have to climb down the tower, and when I think about it, it was actually terrible advice. Hover boots are just going to make you much more clumsy. I think that was just in case you might almost jump off the tower by accident, but you know, I don't think that's actually likely to happen. He says, knowing me, I'll probably end up falling off the tower at some point, proving myself wrong. So Zelda has to open all of these gates. You can't actually do anything about that. So if you get ahead of her, then it doesn't actually save you any time. And the falling rocks can hurt you. Yep, like that. Right, this is where it can get a little bit tricky, because like, yeah, you need to activate that. Hopefully we can make this quick, because this is going to be extremely difficult if I don't do it properly. It's a good start. Okay, cool. Glad that didn't have to go on for too long. Yeah, why not? Zelda almost pushing me into rocks there, like she doesn't take the most direct route. Now I consider, actually, you don't get a lot of time, you know. I know exactly what I'm doing, generally speaking. But yeah, if you're playing through this in the first time, 3 minutes isn't actually very generous at all, I would say. But we're almost there. I get to go into the next battle with full hearts, which is helpful. Because of course, one quick boss battle and escaping from the tower isn't going to be enough, is it? it always did make me laugh how the castle collapses. You know, it's part of the limitation of the N64, because you know that's exactly how buildings collapse. But probably also doesn't make much sense that the remains here don't really look like they just did, but again, pretty good for the 90s. Again, you should have glowing eyes, but there's just darkness there from the emulator. There we go. In all his terrifying glory, the boss that absolutely horrified me as a boy. My 11-year-old self. I think I was 11 at the time. Navi is helpful as always. And I have to give credit to the developers on this one. Ganon actually looks just, I mean, he's terrifying but magnificent in his art design as well. Okay, alright, we're in the back. So this is pretty much the basics of defeating Ganon. I'm not sure how to put the Megaton hammer away, which is not going to help me in this fight, considering I need to be able to shield. Oh, do I? Screw it, I don't need to shield. Just dodge. Definitely see his eyes now. To my recollection, you can take as long as you want getting the Master Sword back. He will not get back up. But at least we have the Master Sword back. cheeky slash in there while he's getting up. Oh, he's quick now. To my recollection, I think that first part where he disarms you and you're swordless, essentially. Pretty sure he makes some hammers the only way to go, but okay. Let's make it count. Sword of Evil's Bane. No, I used to think that the spin attack would do it, but apparently not. His eyes are still a bit screwy with this emulation. They should not look like that. That's an important line, actually. I think in the way that Zelda games were created after this. About him exterminating his descendants, it becomes quite key in the timeline. The ever controversial timeline. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest video game ever made. I adore this ending. I think the design of the credits, it was so ahead of its time. It was movie-like. Just using these kind of pan shots of different scenes throughout the game, and the music itself as well. I think the production behind that was excellent. This idea of video games being, something more than just pixels on a screen, being something cinematic and something that really had an emotional drive. I think a lot of it hadn't been established before this kind of era, and I think Ocarina of Time really propelled that forward. I think that's a large part of the reason why it's become such a mainstay of the discussion when people talk about what is the best video game ever made. And I think that's you think about the best movie or the best book. It's in terms of movies, people always come back to things like Citizen Kane, because there are ways in which the story was presented that are being used 50, 60, 70 years later. There are still aspects of Citizen Kane, as a fan of that film, that kind of come through as really interesting and original cinematography in the way that it was shot and the way that the story was told. And I think some of that resonates with the way that Ocarina of Time was told as a story. A lot of it is that kind of perfect formula of incredible puzzle design, exceptional graphics, and design for the period, and just the way they told the story. I think the narrative is really that driving force. But I hope everyone enjoyed their playthrough. I have. It's been it's been a privilege, really, to kind of play through it again and hopefully share this experience with other people out there in internet land. We see a couple of segments here that are a bit unique as well. Just as a kind of sign off, it's nice to see them getting along. Just as a kind of sign off, I'd like to thank Project 64 for making the emulator. Not perfect, but it's had a few issues that have been a bit of a hindrance, both gameplay-wise and in terms of the representation of the graphics. But overall, it's been excellent. I haven't had too many issues apart from that one crash. A couple of characters there that we probably didn't get to see too much because I've sped through this playthrough, including Big Goron. Poor Mido. No one ever really understood him. This scene also kind of supports my theory, I think. And again, I say it's my theory because I haven't properly researched it, but the theory will say that the sages are deceased, we should say. But I love that they put that scene in where the sages are together. The sages are actually, Saria very sort of endearingly sitting on Darunia's head. The sages, they feel like a collective force then, in a way that they haven't been represented in the game so far. So many goosebumps seeing that scene again. It wouldn't be complete if we didn't have a last little cliffhanger. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that you can leave your console on for all time, and it will still stay on that final screen there. But yeah, what a great finish! And I have to kudos to Nintendo. They made an incredible game, and I don't think that the transition was supposed to be like a sudden color to grayscale there. Again, I think that's the emulator, but yeah, just to kind of wrap up the story a little bit. There are different theories about what actually happens to Navi. She flies away and flies into that window pane in the Temple of Time there. No one's really quite sure what that symbolizes. There are lots of theories that she's with her task set by the Great Deku Tree, she essentially has completed her mission, and she passes on to another plane of existence, or essentially dies. That's a commonly held belief at this point. I think now that theories about the game have come out, and again, it's been 20 years. There's a lot of time for people to talk about it. I support that thought in a way. I think that's probably the kind of symbolism they were going for. But again, that remains to be clarified as far as my knowledge goes. What Zelda's actually looking at through the window now that we defeated Ganondorf, I don't know, because she could still be looking at him, but in the timeline of everything, it gets he's defeated and or time shifts in some way. The official timeline is that because of the actions that we take as Link, there are actually two timelines, two alternate realities, let's say, where one in which Ganondorf did become the evil king and did acquire the Triforce of Power, and everything that transpired through our adventure actually did was not undone, if that makes sense. Us going back in time, having completed our set task to defeat him, that world was not erased. So all the destruction and decimation that happened throughout Hyrule, that still exists in another reality, and that Link returning home, Zelda's left, an adult Zelda, a version of Zelda, is left to kind of pick up the pieces, and there are future Zelda games that feature along a timeline that's based on that. And also then you have the split timeline here, where young Link returns to his present, and as Zelda said, this is where he should be, which I think is quite a telling line, quite a telling quote. Or suggests that this is the original timeline that certain other Zelda games kind of split from. But there are different appreciations, I should say, of the timeline and what it means for different games. But I try to take a more pragmatic, I guess, approach, in the sense that I'm not too concerned about how well things fit together in a timeline. I think a lot of it has been shoehorned in to kind of placate fans and to do a bit of fan service a little bit. I think what Nintendo really try and do is do the thing that they've always done, and just come out with incredible games that don't particularly fit together in any kind of chronological or even logical sense a lot of the time, but just that they're fun to play, they tell a great story, and there's a moral corner and a moral aspect to a lot of what you try and do. I would not be the only person in the world who thought that this game was formative in terms of not only how I think about video games, but how I think about stories. So yeah, thanks for coming along with the journey, and I appreciate you watching, and hopefully more to come. Thanks, guys.